This is a pre-recorded episode. Just going to throw that out there. I know that's going to make everybody mad in the chat. I'm going to try to fix that. But pre-recorded episode, so Flobo and I are on our own. And that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing. Stop thinking that. It is not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to prove it to you by bringing him out here. Ladies and gentlemen, the best damn EXO in the fleet. My number one, your number one. It's Flobo Boy.
Pre-recorded episodes. This is a bad thing. Oh, I hate these. I'm going to voice my displeasure in the chat right now. No, thanks so much, man. It's Starbase 80, baby. Woo!
Starbase 80, the show where we review episodes of Star Trek. We could review any episode from any series. We've done all kinds of shows. We enjoy them all. And this one was a challenge from Flobo.
Yes, it was.
Because we got to a point in the schedule where we had been doing some long timelines. We'd been doing some very heavy timelines. And so I was like, Flobo, you want to mix it up, do a different kind of episodes than we've been doing, these mythology heavy episodes. And Flobo was like, we don't watch a lot of Enterprise.
That was my mistake. Never doing that again after this week. Whew.
So what I did, and Flobo, I think I did this. I think I told you I did this.
Yeah.
What I did, I went to some online lists, read some things that fans have said, and a lot of fans agree that out of the Enterprise episodes we've watched, those are really excellent episodes. But again, very heavy, very story heavy. This one's a one-off, and we're going to be doing those for a while. Just one episode tells you the whole story. Love that. Classic Star Trek.
Classic.
And this one is considered one of the best Star Trek episodes, certainly one of the best Enterprise episodes. So I said, we're going to be watching Carbon Creek.
And I said, to hell it is. You gave me one of the most actively, upsettingly boring episodes on the planet. I know we'll get into it, and I know people are going to flame me in the chat, but you chose wrong, Star Trek fans. What the F?
This is a legendary episode, Carbon Creek. It was nominated for a Hugo, the Science Fiction Award, right?
That's great. It's good
for short form. So I guess that's, it's not a full movie. What else is notable about this episode? It's the second episode of the second season. So it's still kind of fresh, still got that fresh bread smell to it.
Ooh, I love that.
At this point, Enterprise wasn't really under the gun. They were doing good episodes. They had a lot of support from their network, which was UPN at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've talked a little bit about Enterprise. I think you bring up an excellent point, Flobo, when you say that they were looking for a rebranding.
Yeah, because we're probably getting to that sweet intro. But what was interesting for me as a kid is that I had my preconceived notions what Star Trek was. There's a lot of stars in the background where everyone sits in a conference room and go, what do we do about this thing? I don't know. Try this thing. And we try the thing, and we got the thing right. But this one's a little different because it has like the rock intro, and you have people that look like our classic Trek characters doing other things. I really think this was the first attempt to be with it for the kids. This is the what's happening now of Star Trek, if you will.
Yeah, there is a lot of sort of modern things that are introduced in it, and some traditional things, I would say. I mean, if you look at the fact that Enterprise debuts after Voyager has debuted, so you've got Star Trek Next Generation, big crew led by a very sort of, powerful, wise, constantly scientifically curious captain. Then Deep Space Nine, you've got this space station, real ragtag space station. and very diverse crew, which is awesome, and very much in the tradition, and led by a man who's haunted by his past and his loss, Benjamin Sisko. You've got Voyager. So you've got two captains on that one. Chakotay.
Really, though? Do you have two captains, really?
Well, Chakotay becomes the boyfriend of
Exactly.
of Captain Janeway. So, and he's really like, whatever you say, that's what we'll do. I support you completely. You know, the way men always do.
Spicy take. They call it marriage. It was more like a leverage buyout. Am I right? I don't know.
So now you get to Enterprise, and we're kind of back. This is actually a thing I remember from the time. We're back to having a sort of dynamic single captain who makes all these decisions, and he's kind of a cowboy. So there is a lot about Captain Archer, played by Scott Bakula, that I think is from the tradition of Captain Kirk.
Yeah. So this is like I was saying also, that bridge for new fan. I only understood this after watching Star Trek Prodigy, because to me, of all the series Star Trek had, Prodigy to me did not feel like Star Trek, which I hate using that phrase and wording, but
Right.
I feel like that one was kind of different. But they do mention races and things that are part of canon that puts you in the party from a different exit, I guess. You came to the back door. So you
Sure.
look at what we saw already with Star Trek properties, and we go, okay, space is kind of out there. Let's give them flight jumpsuits. Hey, we tried a woman, we tried a black guy, we tried a foreign dude. Let's give a nice red-blooded American male, and let's make our Vulcan hot. We love hot Vulcans. And to me, I understand it now. It just seems weird, but I totally get it.
Yeah. It was they kind of spun the wheel on this. There were a lot of sort of, I would say, random kind of decisions that went into this. I never understood, like, the security armament weapons guy is this little English dude. Never understood that. I always loved Trip. Trip is actually a part of this episode. Interesting little trivia tidbit about this episode. They do mention all the other members of the cast in the credits, but they're not in this show.
They get paid either way.
They get paid either way. That's when you're if my experience in show business means anything, and it doesn't.
It does to me.
There are different levels at which you get hired, and sometimes you can get hired as a recurring. Back in those days, back in the 2000 era, you might still get hired to be a recurring. So when you don't see someone on a show a lot, Barkley, who else can I think of? Rom on DS9, Lita on DS9. These characters are these actors are waiting at home for the phone to ring when they're not working,
Right. Yeah.
But if you're a regular, you usually get the paycheck no matter what. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, I remember on the show CSI New York. I'm totally going to forget the guy's name who played. Oh, Robert Joy. Robert Joy, when he played Dr. Sid Hammerback. I remember on one of the interviews, he actually called the showrunner and goes, "Look, you guys are great. You guys are the first position, but I've been reoccurring for 2 seasons. Do I take other work or not?" And they made him a full time.
I mean, sometimes you've got to have this confrontation, and they don't want to have this conversation. It costs them money to have this conversation. But yeah, he's getting other offers. He's got other things he can do, and he's probably turning stuff down because he's like, I don't know, I might get the call from CSI this week. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was crazy back in those days, especially since if you got work. Like in the 90s when I was getting TV work, if you got work, it led to more work.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean anything now. There's so many shows, so many streaming services, so many producers. It's spread all over the world. It's you're not going to see your actors piled up the way you used to. It'd be like, oh, that guy, I saw him in 7 different shows. Maybe.
Yeah.
Some guys
not to make this about a TV business thing, but like a quirky show, like show that I wasn't a big fan of, a Third Rock from the Sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got the post Super Bowl rub one year and got 30 million viewers after the Super Bowl. And then, JGL became a star. That does not happen anymore. 30 million people may watch the Super Bowl, but no one's watching a show that quirky on a broadcast network and have so many people go, hey, this guy's great. Fred Stewart's amazing.
That's right. I mean, look, the lead guy from Squid Games is getting offers. But the third lead, the fifth lead in Squid Games is going to auditions just like everybody else. Yeah, It's not a star-making business the way it used to be. Let's kind of talk about that because you have, in this episode, you have a bunch of actors who were getting work at the time. And now you don't see so much. And the leads in this episode, I thought were quite good. I liked all the acting. I mean, okay, let's get into the story.
There's a story? Oh, yeah, that's a hot take, y'all.
Damn, dog.
Oh, you're burnt. Okay.
You're burnt. Okay, so this episode takes place on the first anniversary of T'Pol's assignment to Enterprise. And there's a little moment. How'd you feel about this, Flobo, where the captain says, before you serving with us for a year, the longest a Vulcan had served with an Earth crew was 2 weeks. And she's like, 10 days.
I love exposition. But swap out Vulcan with Asian, and you'll see how messed up that is. You see with the black, you see how messed up that is? By the way, we haven't seen one of you guys for 2 weeks. Congratulations for making it there. Come on. I don't like this framing device at all. Just saying.
Okay. So Vulcan lady is having a little wine. And this is interesting because I believe now maybe some of you Star Trek fans in the comments know this. I thought Vulcans don't get drunk. Like,
oh yeah,
like alcohol doesn't work on Vulcans. She's still having some wine, and she says it's a small indulgence, and blah blah blah.
I mean, have you seen a fat Vulcan? It's probably the calories. I've not seen a round-faced Vulcan ever.
I'm trying to think of one, but
they all work out. She's kind of like oh, man.
In the animated story, when those school kids are picking on little Spock, one of them's heavy.
Oh yeah, one of them, but that's all baby weight.
That's all baby fat.
She's probably these simple carbs are terrible for my body.
So things are as usual when there's a gathering of Captain Archer, Trip, the engineer, and T'Pol, the science officer and Vulcan of the show. Whenever they get together, it gets a little dishy, which is weird. And the captain mentions that she had taken a 5-day leave at one point when she was stationed in Sausalito, which I always think is hilarious that according to Enterprise, the Vulcans established their headquarters in Sausalito.
I've been to Sausalito exactly once, and I was like, wow, it is incredibly expensive to get here, but it looks like a normal town. Like, what's the appeal? The water? Like,
just a regular town. Honestly, I think it's the name. I think
no cookies. The cookies there were, I couldn't get Sausalitos in Sausalito. I felt like I was lied to.
That's crazy. Now I need to take you to Milano just to fix that.
Chesapeake.
Okay, so the Vulcan lady, T'Pol, she does not necessarily want to talk about it, but as they do, the boys gang up on her and press her. What were you doing on your vacation? Vulcans don't vacation. But what were you doing? She went to a town called Carbon Creek, and they want to know why. So she tells them, yes, Flobo.
Straight up HIPAA violation. Right? Hey, have this alcoholic beverage. Now tell me what you were doing on your time off. Excuse me. This right here is awful. And you're a Chit fan. Tisk, Captain.
This does feel like Enterprise HR should be called.
Right.
And get in there. We learn from T'Pol that Carbon Creek is the setting of the first contact between Earth people and Vulcans. And of course, Trip's like, well, that ain't what I learned in school. But remember, Trip went to school in Florida. So
no comment.
I'm
going there next week, so I can't.
So
in fact, when this episode airs, I would be actually in Florida, so I don't want to.
Okay, I'll go classy with it. So Trip basically is representing all these Star Trek fans who love canon and think that canon's the most important thing in the world. And he's like, now wait a minute, Zephyr Cochrane was the one who made the first contact with the Vulcans, and she's like, well, I guess maybe you don't want to hear this story then. And now we're all gonna hear this story. It happened to Paul's second foremother.
Yeah,
that is the mother's mother's mother.
And it was like, foremother, what is that? And it was like great grandmother. I was like, okay, didn't say that then. Yeah.
What had happened? What happened was in 1957. That's a RuPaul reference. I love RuPaul. You love NCIS. I love RuPaul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just I love RuPaul so much.
Force of nature.
Hey man, don't judge. I'm an old man. I can.
I said force of nature. I was with you, brother.
So, basically, because of Sputnik. So it's 1957, and the Vulcans wanted to observe Sputnik. Earth people had just launched their first Earth satellite. I guess it's their first, important one anyway. And while observing Sputnik, there are impulse manifold problems, techity tech, and they crash, and their captain is killed. And now the only survivors are Tamir, that is the mother's mother of T'Pol, played by T'Pol, dressed as T'Pol, looking exactly like T'Pol. So that's fun. Did that bother you at all? They could have gotten another actress.
It technically isn't, because there's multiple scenes, but this is what we talk about, that bottle episode filler stuff. And if I'm going too far, please put me off the line. But we have half the cast not there from the ship. They go down to the small town, which you can go to any back lot and get any kind of drab old clothes. Characters are playing their forebearers. I mean, yes, it is classic Trek. Financially, it's classic Trek. But what's the point? You did all this stuff for no reason. And we'll get to reason why after that. But I'm just saying.
Okay, so let me drag you through this some more, Flobo. So it's just the three of them: Tamir, Strawn, who is one of their engineers, and Mistral. I'm not sure what Mistral was doing on the ship. Not sure what his job was. Mistral now seems to be like the bad boy of the three, because they've eaten all their rations. They're starving. I think they've gone 5 days without food at this point. And he detects deer, and he's like, those creatures could sustain us for weeks. And Vulcans are vegetarians. So they're like, what? Shut up. You're bad. Stupid you. No talk now. They're like all mad at Mistral. But this is portentous to the rest of the episode, that Mistral's like, we're on Earth now. We might have to do things the Earth way. And one of the things that we always talk about with Enterprise is how the Vulcans in this particular series are absolute stick up the butt jerks. They're intractable. They're stubborn. They're snobby. They really don't like Earth people. And it's like the first time in the history of Star Trek, and I think the only time, that the Vulcans are the bad guys.
Oh yeah, they definitely have Americans on vacation vibes. But hey, I see my countrymen and I respect them. Memory Alpha says Mestral is a survey ship crew member, so pretty much generic.
Crew member. So I don't know. He was just doing crew stuff. He was. I don't know. When I worked at Burger King, I was a crew member. Maybe he was just.
Really? That's the word they used? That Burger King crew member?
I was a crew member. I didn't have a regular job.
Fair enough. At Target, I was a team member, which is like, this team sucks. Like, are there playoffs? Do we have championships? Like, I don't know.
Go team
Go
away,
team.
because I don't like being on you. They go into town and they swipe some clothes. Now this creates a couple of interesting images. One is that this is very much like when Kirk and Spock go in City on the Edge of Forever. They go back into the past on Earth and they steal some clothes.
Yeah.
Mistral actually steals a hat. He's got a beanie. He pulls down over the tips of his Vulcan ears, just like Spock did in Edge of Forever. So kind of cool there. References.
It's kind of cool, but I mean, we saw that in the intro. I don't know when I ruin it for you, but we saw T'Pol getting into Earth clothes, and I was like, "See this?"
Okay, hang on. I think I can.
Highly unnecessary, but totally for the exactly. Who asked for that?
Okay. Let's talk about having a show on UPN. Let's talk about the fact that when you've got 7 of 9 in the late 90s on Voyager, she's added late to the series. And then on this UPN show, they just look for the women with the tiniest waists and the biggest chests.
Oh, come on, really? You literally told me this is my great grandma. It's like, come on. Gross.
I actually, this answers the question from earlier for me, which is why didn't they get another actress? Because another actress might not have been able to give them this shot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could put on a jacket on screen. You made that happen for a reason, but yet you're behind a sheet in the middle of the 50s. Is anyone going, "Oh yeah, that's my type"? No. What fetish is this?
There's a lot of thrills in Enterprise that are based on people's bodies. We always talk about the decontamination chamber. When they get back to the ship, they basically strip down literally to their underwear and rub lotion on each other.
See, that is dumb for another reason, but at least there's some science stuff to make sense of that. But you're landing on Earth and you're like, you know what we're going to do? Let's do a strip scene and not do the random end. This is all wrong. Gotta take it off again. It's like, I feel really dirty.
There was a lot of gratuity in that. Now I have to say, of course, I'm the one who took that picture. I'm the one who put that picture in our beginning credits. So, I liked it.
Hey.
Wouldn't do all that work for nothing.
Doesn't mean it's ridiculous. I like Too Fast, Too Furious. I know it's ridiculous.
I mean, come on. Okay, so we've got our Vulcans trying to figure out how to get food. They go to a tavern. It is run by Trope Alert, everyone. Trope Alert.
My favorite.
The brave, beautiful single mom and her really, really terrific kid.
Aww.
So that's where we meet. The kid's name is Jack. The mom's name is Maggie. And she is a kind single woman fighting as hard as she can. And we do find out that there is a money jar. And I think we eventually find out that money jar is for Jack's college fund.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's very proud of Jack because Jack is such a smart kid. And they don't want Jack to do what everyone does in Carbon Creek, all the men, which is go work in the mine.
Right.
So this is Carbon Creek, Pennsylvania. So this coal mine is very serious business here. As a matter of fact, Mestral actually eventually goes and works in that mine.
Yeah, it's kind of tragic, though. I know it's not the point of this episode, but it is kind of tragic how many towns are just living on this natural resource, and natural resources can end, and they are kind of frivolous, and you can make good money in the mines. That idea of a man walking with a pitchfork is gone. It's like all tech out, and everything's professional. But it is kind of not tragic, but like sad. There's usually like one employment opportunity still in some of these cities nationwide.
Absolutely, and it's a tough business. It's and the danger inherent. Just getting sick is tough, but of course, mines collapse. Oh no, I gave away the third act. The
Go ahead, everybody. Live long and prosper.
the Vulcans realize that they did get a distress call out, but their radio is so broken they have no idea of knowing if anyone ever received it. They're probably just going to have to live here. And that's really what Mestral is saying. He's like, look, we're just going to have to get used to this. And they get a place. The three Vulcans living together. Tamir tells everyone that she is business associates with the two men. And everybody seems to be like, oh, yeah, okay.
That made it weirder. That made it weird. You know what? This is actually begs a question. And I want to ask you as a OG fan, sure. Is it too much, not enough, or just okay that with all the Star Treks and all the Star Trek stories, they go to Earth as often as they do?
I have to say, as a fan, I always knew it was a cost-cutting measure.
Okay.
Ever since I was a little kid watching the original series, and they were like, we went to the planet where it's all gangsters. And I'm like, that's just the same sets you used on the Untouchables. What are you guys doing here? Like, I want space and guns and monsters. And you really didn't get a lot of that overall on Star Trek. It was kind of, eked out in little servings. So yeah, whenever I would see them like in the Old West, I don't know. That's why I kind of liked when the holodeck was established on Next Generation, because then they were deliberately going to Earth in these holograms, these holo adventures. But yeah, actually visiting Earth and actually visiting the past. Like, we watched Assignment Earth not too long ago, and they were just like, yeah, we casually went back in time. Just wanted to check things out. Oh, we happened to run into this guy, Gary 7. Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You're going back in time. What?
Yeah. Just for funsies.
Just for funsies. I don't know. It's I guess especially in this episode, what they're trying to do, this is we've had this conversation, Flobo, you and I, because we both went to college and we both took writing classes. And when I took my TV writing class, I got the biggest letdown in the world, which was my writing teacher and the books we were using were all about, look, if you want to write for television, there's only one kind of story you can write. And that's a story about people and their relationships.
Okay.
And I'm like, I want ray guns and monsters and spaceships. Right. That's what I want.
Right. Relationship to this ass kicking about to give. Yeah.
And now, granted, Star Trek's a great example of what I like to call people stories about people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you're going to tell a science fiction story, inside that there should be a people story, a story that everyone can relate to, and we can kind of get that. But I don't like the limitations of a show like The Waltons, or honestly, the modern version of that I would say would be like This Is Us.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like, I get it. You care about these people. I get it. I don't care about these people. I need something else to watch.
People who watch This Is Us just cry weekly. Like, you actually schedule this in your planner. I'm going to have a good old cry at Thursday at 9 p.m. on NBC.
I mean, look, people make families out of these shows, and I get that. I mean, honestly, I feel that way about everybody on DS9. I feel that way about everybody on Next Generation. I know them, I like them, I have relationships in my head with them. I get that. This one's a little different because we don't know any of the characters. We meet them in this story, and it's just a story about people doing people stuff, feeling people emotions. Oh man.
I wish I would clip that out. People emotions. Ugh. Jeez.
So we get we actually, I like the actors in this episode. I know I said that already, but I do like the actors. I do like the performances. It's just, yeah, it's not so much a Star Trek episode.
Mhm.
It's kind of this, what if these aliens had to, I mean, yeah, honestly, it's Third Rock from the Sun. These
Yeah.
these aliens are marooned on Earth, passing as humans, having this weird culture shock differences between them and the humans they're meeting. It's Third Rock.
I mean, look, I like episodic content. And I think for someone who came into this not knowing where it was in the season, it has a very not even episodic, like anthology. Like it feels like it's the Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits. You know, you had a dinner party, someone's an alien. Oh yeah, we came from this country. No, you came from this time. Let me tell you the real story. And what ticks me off about this is that they decide to phone in half the cast to do something to alter the continuity, if you believe in that, that has no fallout or no stakes thereafter. Anyone else still says Bozeman, Montana. Like I knew that, and I didn't even watch Star Trek. So I was like, what is the point of this episode?
Right. That's a great question. That is a great question. What is the point? Why do people like it so much? Now that we're like heading into the last half of our show here, I'm still trying to figure out why people like this episode so much. One of the reasons I would propose would be because the series was so weak that this episode actually stood out.
I would say, look, we love T'Pol, and I guess they love her assets, and she was a very T'Pol-centric thing. She like gets one over on the crew and has her moment at the end. But to me, as a fellow writer, it is kind of cheap to have the story say that it really happened. You decide, and then have the scene after that where it's like, hey, look at this cool purse I got.
It's crazy the way they leave things open. They actually they have a couple of different moments where they go, wait, T'Pol, how old are you? And it's sort of leveraged with that, like, it's rude to ask is kind of, where we go, because we never get an answer. And then, yes, as you say, I was wondering at the end of this episode, so wait, is Tamir actually T'Pol? Because she's got the purse that Tamir had in this episode, and it's a beaded purse. Like, those things don't age well.
Oh yeah, good point. I was like, well, maybe that it was when on her recent leave she found where her great grandma stuck it. But you're right. If it was stored anywhere, dust would have gotten to it. It'd probably been all beat down and
it's beaded. That means every little bead is held on by a thread. Those beads don't stay on forever. My wife sells vintage stuff, so I kind of know that stuff doesn't age well.
Canon, wait, your wife sells that retcon. Your wife sells vintage stuff?
Yeah, my wife actually has a vintage, mostly tablecloths business.
You think you know a guy? Where can I buy these?
Oh, I'll Uncle Bunk's Trunk on Etsy is her shop. I actually asked her if she would sponsor this show. Just let me mention it, and she's like, "Nah, I'm good."
That is so on brand for a content creator. Hey, bro, we need any kind of exposure. Nah, it's fine.
No, your audience, not really my customers, but have fun.
She's a keeper, John, I tell you.
I'm telling you, dude, her business has paid the dues many months. Many months those bills have been paid because of her business.
This is so cool. Uncle Bunk's Trunk, 2,321 5-star reviews on Etsy. Fantastic. Give her my regards.
I definitely will. When you come out here to the farm, you will meet the lovely missus and the lovely family. Wow. Okay, so getting back to the story.
I want to. I want a tablecloth. This is way more interesting than that episode.
There's a couple of notable things that I thought were funny. They get jobs. Oh, when they do finally get money, they buy TV dinners. Flobo, you've been around. You're a man of the world, much like myself. TV dinners for vegetarians.
Oh, not many good options. I was a Hungry Man guy, so they piled on the meat almost to the point where they said, "We'll just block your arteries first." I can't. Lean cuisine and all those vegetarian TV dinners were just awful.
I mean, in 1957, I don't think you were getting your vegetarian options. Maybe there was pasta,
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes. Like, what are you doing? Throwing away the Salisbury steak? What are you doing? Feeding the deer? The Salisbury steak?
That is so, but then again, we don't know what animals are Salisbury, so it could be nutritious to the deer. Why not?
Oh no, we eat Salisbury.
Yeah, we eat the Salisbury.
Oh, those damn Salisburies.
The wild Salisburies, yes.
Oh my God. That's what I gotta raise here on the farm, Salisburies. I never thought of that, Flobo. You gotta write that down. That's a good joke. You wrote that.
I totally will.
You gotta add that to your act. The boys get jobs, but so does Tamir. But Tamir mostly just sweeps. There's a lot of sweeping in Carbon Creek. Maggie is sweeping. Tamir's sweeping. There's lots of sweeping.
This totally an improv game. You're working in the scene.
I didn't have to make any decisions. I just started sweeping.
Hey.
And of course, the engineer becomes a plumber. And where's that? Strawn becomes a plumber, and he hates it because a kid is mean to him and calls him Mo based on his haircut.
Which is really weird. Well, not the haircut stuff, because if you want to get bagged by a kid, that's going to happen. But what I think is, like, if you're an engineer and you're on the planet, you got to make ends meet. But why would you decide to do primitive engineering with substances? Like, I feel like I would do something opposite if I were him, personally.
I actually thought about that. I actually
like a mechanic or thinking.
Well, the first thing I thought was, well, what about the plumber that was already in town? Like, now you're the immigrant who stole his job, You're like stealing work.
Yeah.
What I made up in my head was that there is no local plumber in Carbon Creek. So he fell into that work because fixing those systems is the only systems fixing job he could find.
That is just well, that TVs back then, cars,
toasters,
refrigerators.
That's true. And the TV references are kind of cute in this. Mistral really loves Earth. He's really digging the whole experience, and he really gets into TV. At one point, he says, I'm going back to the ship. I'm going to go get one of our antenna so that I can get a better signal on our TV.
I've been there.
And I'm like, let him go. Yeah. By all means, come on. You should get the best reception of anybody.
This is totally off the rails. But when I was a kid living in New York, every TV signal was on, unfortunately, the Twin Towers, except for CBS. And so in our house in Brooklyn, we had to physically move the antenna for CBS. So nobody wanted to do it except for Walker, Texas Ranger night. After martial law and early edition, we just moved it over for Walker, Texas Ranger. That was the best lineup on TV. When you're in Texas, look behind you.
Oh my God. Actually, my wife, speaking of my wife, Leslie, she was on an episode of Martial Law.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. That was my show. My dad watched Walker, but definitely it was Martial Law, 9:00 Saturdays. It was just, it was great.
Oh, that's the good old days. Samo, man, good old Samo.
Sam and Arsenio. I was like, for those who can't afford Rush Hour, we brought Arsenio Hall to our show. You're like, yeah.
That was so awesome. Okay, so speaking of Maggie, Maggie played by Ann Cusack. Ann Cusack is a lovely person. In my misadventures of being an actor, I actually was up for a lead of a series, and Ann was up for playing, opposite that lead. She was going to be the leading lady. She was going to be the wife of my character, and I got to audition with her. And what a lovely person!
Oh wow, fantastic. That's great. Yeah,
so
you hear about horror stories, especially with people with famous last names. That's really good to hear.
Yeah. Honestly, every Cusack I ever met who wasn't John Cusack was a lovely person.
That's what I was going to say, but I'm glad you did.
I have no bad experiences with John Cusack. It's just all stories, folks. It's just stories.
Mhm.
But Anne super lovely. Jack, her son, super smart, actually has a conversation with Tamir after she's done sweeping. She's going to do some meditating, and he says, "Are you going to do some meditating?" And she talks with him a bit and finds out that he just loves to learn. He's just a super smart kid. He's way too good for this town. His mom does not want him to work in the mines. Um, and he's hoping he can get to go to college, but he doesn't have all the money he needs.
Mm.
And Tamir, at this point, Vulcan Lady has been kind of rejecting the whole experience. She hasn't been getting to know anybody or, building any relationships with anybody, which is very Vulcan, by the way.
Sure.
Don't be emotional, hold your emotions in, but she is touched by this kid. I wish I hadn't said that.
Ugh. It would have gone under the radar until you stop the bus. Like, wait a minute.
Emotionally, she connects with the kid. I don't know what I'm doing.
Way better.
And so then the next big thing that happens is the next big thing that happens is there's an accident in the mines, and Mistral is like, I can save these guys, but I need to use our weaponry. And Tamir's like, no, we do not pull our technology out and show everybody. No. And he's like, I'm doing it anyway because I care.
Mm-hmm.
And then she relents and she helps him and they rescue the miners. And that's a nice story.
Yeah. Is that the right call?
No, well, they're not time travelers. So we should, and they're not Starfleet. They do have some sense. We get some sense of you're not supposed to break a prime directive, but we don't get a sense that there's a prime directive. Just the spirit of the law. You're not supposed to interfere or contaminate a society.
Right.
Was it the right call? I say it was the right call. Honestly, I watched this thing. This is the third time I've watched it. Third, I think. And Mistral, I finally realized Mistral's a hero. Mistral's a great character.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's great.
So I do get something out of this.
I don't disagree with you. Sorry. I didn't like, oh, that's good for you. No, I don't. I don't disagree. I came off wrong. They were neutral to me. But
yeah, I mean, he's not given a lot of, we're not really on his journey, which makes sense because the story is being told by T'Pol about her great-great-grandmother Tamir. So, I mean, it's not really all about how awesome Mistral is, but Mistral's pretty awesome. He does some awesome stuff and he cares. It is interesting to me that he and Maggie almost have like this romance. It almost kind of happens because I just can't help but think of Spock's parents, Spock's dad, Sarek, and going after the human woman. I just feel like there's a little bit of like Vulcan fever, a little bit of green-blooded fever going on. Like, man, these Earth women.
I mean, hey, man, I heard we were on vacation. The whole vibe changes, right? But I really feel like, not to say human women are more direct, but I can imagine if you're with someone where you have to do a song and dance visually or verbally, I think you're attractive. I also think you're attractive. Let's my mouth and someone being like, oh, here's passion. It may be seen like a whole different pot of pumpkin, as the mom would say. So
yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense. The hot and cold really do kind of get together, and women are a little more emotional, especially at this point in society, than men. So there is a dynamic that just sort of fits together. It sort of kind of works. And another reason why I like Mistral is he's not dogging out there. He's just like, yes, that kiss was very pleasant.
And I would say that I've been there plenty of times because I have negative game. So it's like, I enjoy your company. Seriously, one time I told a girl I enjoyed her companionship and she still makes fun of me for it. My companionship? Like, what was I supposed to say?
Here's the thing. Okay, I'm a very old man. This gray hair tells the story. Here's the thing that I learned. Don't talk about your feelings.
Oh.
Talk about how hot she is. Because in saying that, you're saying what your feelings are.
Mm.
You know, and don't talk about body parts being hot. Oh,
Right.
you got really great legs. Because
Right.
now she's like, oh, and now the next pair of good legs that walks by, he's going to go following.
So she's hot, but as a complete idea.
Tell her how attractive she is. That's something everyone wants to know anyway, man or woman. They want to know that they're attractive. And if they're attractive to this person and that person and this person and that person, then they start feeling good about themselves because they're attractive to a bunch of people. This is where I always tell people to go now. Tell her how she affects you in a positive way. It doesn't have to be just how hot she is, but
this
yeah.
Is why I feel like a Mestral. This is most fascinating, Captain. Because I had no idea. Now I know. I will try this eventually.
I've made every mistake you could possibly make. Take it from me. You want a person to know how attractive they are and not why, just how much. Okay, so now we've learned something. The more you know.
Dropping science on Mother's Day. Respect.
We have a couple of references to TV shows in this one.
Mm-hmm.
We got this from Memory Alpha. In this episode, the television program I Love Lucy is mentioned by one of the Vulcan characters. It's where we got our quote from at the beginning of the show. In reality, Star Trek, the original series, was a Desilu production filmed at the studio owned by Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. The Twilight Zone is also mentioned, which is hilarious because it's mentioned by Tucker in this is like an episode of the Twilight Zone, which means he's watched the Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah.
Way in the future.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Everlasting.
Also cool is at the time, the Twilight Zone had been brought back for the 2002-2003 television season. Twilight Zone on UPN, hosted by
Forrest Whitaker?
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, because the last one was Jordan Peele, right?
Yes,
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and you and I actually had a conversation another time about how I was like, wait, was it Forrest Whitaker or was it the other guy? There was another anthology called The Watcher.
Yeah. On UPN, and it was definitely they leaned into the UPN-ness of if you know what I'm saying, from the network that got you Homeboys in Outer Space and The Secret Diary doesn't provide for it. They're like, let's do one for our audience, and it was called The Watcher, and it was hosted by Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Sir Mix-a-Lot, which I love. I love Sir Mix-a-Lot. Got his chance at TV. I love.
He was like an angry watcher too. He was like, "Yo, man, you were watching this and mess up my electricity. I'm going back to work." It was kind of this weird, like he was like a cantankerous, like Tales from the Crypt kind of way of him just being this angry host about what was happening on the episode. So.
Oh man, I gotta dig that show up. I want to see that. I never watched it. I knew it existed, but I never.
Oh, he'll be like in Vegas and like in his car eating wings in a room, like, "Yo, welcome back to The Watcher. You know, people who bothers me, fake people. Watch this." And you're like, okay.
I love it. Okay, so Jack, it looks like Jack is not going to be able to go to college. The money didn't come through. They weren't able to get all the money together, and it's due like 2 days from now. And she finds this. Tamir finds this out while somebody is sweeping. Is it Maggie? No. Maggie's in the background. I guess Tamir is sweeping and Jack's talking to her, and then Maggie's in the background being very sad. So Tamir, who has not really gone out of her way for the humans up to this point, then goes and gets her purse, and we see her get on a train, and she takes a train trip. I had no idea where she was going. By reading up on where she was going, she went to Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, glamorous city of Pittsburgh,
which I love because I thought it was New York.
It was the big city, the one that matters.
All we know is they used the back lot at 20th Century Fox. We're like 99% sure they did that.
As the kids say, I mean.
So, right. So she travels to Pittsburgh. Oh, Oh, because she went to the wreckage of their ship and she found a little scrap of something. And in a silent scene, no dialogue anyway, there's music. She goes to this guy, some cigar chopping guy, and she sells him Velcro. I love it. Velcro.
So
That's where Velcro came from. It came from the planet Vulcan, Flobo.
okay, actually that makes a lot of more sense than it would have actually happened. So I don't want to be that guy, but even
Please.
I knew that Velcro was invented before that. So I was like, wait, was this hanging around and you stole it, Vulcans? You didn't really help anybody out. I know there's another fact on Memory Alpha there too, but
yeah, exactly. You are 100% right. It was invented in 1955, not 1957. 2 years before Sputnik and the events in this episode. However, do you know the name of the man credited with inventing Velcro?
John Weber.
George de Mestral. What? So we've got a character named Mestral, named, I guess, after the guy who actually invented Velcro. I hope he's cool with this episode. Or at least
basically, if I went back to like 2012 and I gave people hand sanitizer, I'd be like, my work here is done. This is exactly what happened.
That actually might have helped a lot of people. Might have saved a lot of lives. Yeah,
it's actually my fault now. Why did you time travel, Flobo? I'm sorry.
Damn you, Flobo. Why didn't you save all those people from the Spanish flu? Dude. We are pretty much at the end of this episode. We've talked about, the ending where basically she gets to the end of the story. Oh, because she sold the Velcro and she gets all the money and she puts the money in the money jar on the bar for Jack. And now Jack gets to go to college. And that's a lovely thing. And now we come back to the present, and then the scene is very funny where basically Trip's like, hold on, none of this makes any sense. You've completely changed history. This is absolutely bizarre. Flobo, if you will allow me, I would like to show you an alternative take of that final scene.
Oh, let's.
This is from the blooper reel of season 2, and it's kind of self-explanatory. So let me show you the final scene of Carbon Creek.
Do you realize you've just rewritten our history books?
Footnote at best.
Footnote. This is like finding out that Neil Armstrong wasn't the first man to walk on the moon.
Perhaps he wasn't.
Oh.
Perhaps he wasn't.
Uh-oh.
How long does Mestral stay on Earth?
The rest of his life, presumably.
Whoa. That could be like, what, 150, 400 years?
Oh, possibly longer.
Hang on a minute.
They're so drunk. I love it.
Lives to, what, 30 presidents?
They're so drunk.
Travels the world.
This is the moment, Flobo, where I realized that Jolene Blaylock is actually a really good actor. And it's Connor Trenier playing Trip and Scott Bakula, who are doing tons of huge drunk stuff.
Yeah.
But I really love how she's actually doing really good on camera drunk, because she's doing like what you do when you try to control yourself. Like, hold on, I am not drunk.
Right. Wow, that was a cool scene to see. I'm glad they took it out, but it was a cool scene to see.
They were probably bored. This was probably the 5th time they were doing it. They were like, let's do one for fun. Maybe it'll end up on the blooper reel. And I just love that little scene.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up.
That precedes us finding out that T'Pol has Tamir's purse, her beaded purse, which again would not have looked that good after all that time, unless they use special future science purse preserving.
Oh
measures.
no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't. don't. Table
that
safe.
Could be real. That could be a thing. We don't know. All right, Flobo, any notes you have that we did not cover?
I just want to say before I get into it, like the reason why I'm so upset with this show, this episode, is that there's about a bunch of half measures. If you're going to make this a continuity change, make the change. If it's a imaginary what if, make it imaginary what if. If it's a holodeck thing, sure. If it's alternate universe, say that. You gave me little bits of everything and still left the ending kind of open. That's why it's frustrating. But I will say, before Bozeman, T-Po's great grandma went to Earth, stop messing with my canon, should be the title of the episode. When the whole thing about the lives of Vulcans, and it goes, it's well documented that they came earlier, but no one's talking about it because whatever. I say, cop out. So they land, you get the random silhouette shot of T-Mir getting dressed. Anyone out there have an outline fetish or silhouette fetish? Right there. When I kiss housewives, I say it's pleasant all the time. Maybe that's why I'm single. And let's be real. If someone gave me a patch of Velcro, I wouldn't know what to do with it at first. And that's what I have.
You got to give it up to the guy she sold it to, because that guy, he's a future thinker. The fact that he could go, wait, the fact that it keeps coming back together. I mean, I believe Velcro was used in the space program because straps and buckles were so difficult to use. So,
you know what? I don't know, but if that's true, I totally believe it.
I mean, eventually that's why Velcro became a big thing. But I remember it being introduced when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like maybe late 70s or something. I don't recall seeing it before then, but I don't know.
Trickle down to the masses.
I'm not up on fabrics. That's what other people do. That's not me. Okay. Well, any windows you opened up on your browser that?
Yeah, for sure. How to win a Hugo Award. This is the first one I have open. This is a comparison article of who's hotter, T-Pole or Hoshi. And don't get me started. I have Robert Joy's IMDb because I randomly brought him up in the CSI New York reference. How many episodes were there of the Waltons? 221.
Too many.
Definitely Etsy.com/shop/Uncle Bunk's Trunk. 5,000 sales and counting. And two, The Watcher is up on Wikipedia, but it was created by Christopher Crowe, who has two other credits that are kind of notable for two different reasons. He did 2 seasons in the 80s of Alfred Hitchcock Presents as creator.
Right.
Writer, director, executive producer. And the show I remember, Airwolf. Remember that?
Oh my God. Airwolf.
Yeah.
I love Airwolf.
And so his last 2 shows were The Watcher and 7 Days. And I guess UPN was the end of the line. But yeah, there you go.
Wow. Okay. We got to run. This has been a nice long episode, and we hope you had a lot of fun with it. And I can get us out of here before we get to an hour.
Go.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Live long and prosper. Damn it, it's an hour. Ah, we went over. No.
Sorry, cut me out. You're going to cut out everything. Cut it out.